step up. And Brian Birdwell is already a leader, but will be even more of a leader as Paxton steps out and I step out, and the three of us, we do arm wrestle for who's the most conservative member, literally. And Brian is so principled. I had a bill on the floor, and it was going to be, there were 31 senators, and I expected it to pass 31-0. It was primarily a local bill, and I found out there was one person who was going to vote no. And I looked at it and said, Brian's going to vote no. So I walked over to Brian, and I said, Brian, why are you going to vote no on my bill? He did such a good job of convincing me that I said, you know, Brian, you're going to force me to vote against my own bill that's going to pass 29-2. I changed his mind. He voted when he passed 31. He is so principled. So principled. I just love the guy, and we're proud to serve with him. And Mel, Jan and Mel, my wife, have become good friends, and Mel was kind enough to do a quilt for our granddaughter who was born 3 weeks ago, so thank you, Mel. And very nice. And we did have a grandson yesterday. So we have 3 now, and we're very, very... How many grandparents are here? Wow. God, does he not save the greatest blessing of all? However, I will tell you, we have a 3.5-year-old grandson as well, and I will tell you, I now understand. We have 2 children. When we used to let our children off with my mom and dad, and Jan and I would take the weekend and go somewhere, we'd come back, and they'd say, we love them, but we are really tired. And I used to think, how can you be tired? This is fun. When my 3.5-year-old comes over just for the day, and my son picks him up, I'm really tired. But it's a great blessing. I'll tell you a funny story about Ken Paxton. I was chair of education this session. He was on education. So we got a chance to, when you're on the same committees, you really spend a lot of time with each other. Ken's a rock star too, because I told Birdwell, I said, Brian, Paxton's here now. So we're going to have someone else competing with us to be the most conservative member. We got to gang up on him. You know, we got to watch out for each other. So Ken did a great job, and as often happens, like there are multiple Lincoln County, Lincoln Reagan Day dinners tonight. And so if my wife wasn't at the hospital with my daughter just checking in, she would be on either here or on the road somewhere. But we often send our wives to one dinner and we go to the other. So a few weeks ago, Tarrant County had their Lincoln Day dinner the same night as Harris County, where I come from, West Houston, had their Lincoln Day dinner. And I didn't want the folks at my county to think, well, I'm taking their votes for granted. But I need to be in Tarrant County because there's so many votes there. And so all of the lieutenant governor candidates were in Tarrant. All the attorney general candidates went to Harris. So Ken sent Angela to Tarrant, and Jan was in Harris. You all got that? You're a smart group, so I figured this out. And so there I am with Angela in Tarrant County, and I said, Angela, let's take a photo of the 2 of us. And then I'll text my wife, and you text Ken and tell him to take a photo of the 2 of them. So we had a photo with Ken and Jan, and Dan and Angela. So we put it up on Facebook. We got a great laugh. And we had a rally a few weeks ago back in my district, and I invited Ken, and Ken came. And if you met my wife, you love her. She's got all the personality of the family. And so I'm telling the story, and she blurts out from the back. What they don't know is, I told Ken I'm trading in a senator for the next attorney general. Right? I want to talk a little bit, I won't go through my record too much. Mel kind of told you a couple of things that we have accomplished, and it's on the push card there, and I'm very proud of the Silent Grant bill. It will save 10,000 to 12,000 lives this year, and so we're very proud of that. This year as chair of education, and Ken, again, serving on education with us, we stood together and did a lot of things that I'm proud of, sweeping reforms, and they said it couldn't be done, and we passed the bills almost unanimously. So we were able to lead, but we reduced standardized testing from 15 tests a year to 5. That's a big deal, saving 50 testing days for each test on a vaccine day. We put more focus on career instead of everyone going to college to get a BS degree in BS and having $100,000 in debt. So we put more focus on jobs. We took on C-Scope, we stopped Common Core from coming to Texas, and we passed the Merry Christmas bill. No more winter holidays at school. We had a a great session in education, this past session, so it was all fun. What I really want to do is talk about the future a little bit, and why we need new leadership as lieutenant governor. I'm not running against the other three. I'm running for the conservative values, the Christian conservative values I believe in. I don't know how many of you have seen my TV commercial, but the one where I talk about I'm a Christian first, a conservative second, Republican third. That's who I am, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I believe in the Judeo-Christian ethic of the Bible. That's what our country was founded upon, and that guides me, and that's the person I am. And we were in session, and Ken knows this. We were in session, and it became unraveled. And I finally came to the decision that we needed a new lieutenant governor. After 12 years, I felt the current lieutenant governor's leadership tank was empty. The filibuster should have never happened. Never happened. Ken would have stopped it. Brian would have stopped it. I would have stopped it. There were many ways we could have stopped it. Mark Davis has asked me that question. And I said, well, one of the ways we would have stopped it is simply, we had 3 bills that last day. A transportation bill, a criminal justice bill, and the pro-life bill, which was 3 bills, and one of those was my bill. I would have passed the transportation bill, I would have passed the criminal justice bill, and I would have taken that gavel that we auctioned off and adjourned. Wendy would have never taken the floor. And then Governor Perry would have called us back 10 minutes later, as he did, and we would have had 1 bill to pass for 30 days, the pro-life bill. What makes that so crucial is, as Ken acknowledged, the Democrats have us in their gun sights. Because if they win Texas, we never elect a Republican president ever again in our lifetime. Because the electoral votes of California, New York, and Texas added together make it mathematically impossible. So what happened by Wendy Davis becoming a rock star, and Abbott will defeat her, but that's not really their goal. Because the Democrats and the liberals and the socialists, which their party has become, they have a long-term view, and they are relentless. So they see this opportunity as a great gift for them. Had Wendy Davis not been lifted up by the lieutenant governor, they would have run a no-name person in that position, and she wouldn't have raised any money. Let me give you the example, the difference. Wendy Davis raised $12 million from July to December. Greg Abbott only raised $11 million. Most of the money that Wendy raised came from California and the Northeast. So you have liberals in California and the Northeast trying to take over Texas. But let's go down to the next race. Letitia Vanderputte, who's a senator from San Antonio, is running for lieutenant governor. She would be my opponent. You know how much money she raised? $250,000. So and that's what whomever they would have had running for governor would have raised. So they look at Wendy as someone to use to just pound us as Republicans, Greg Abbott and all of us, for the next year, to soften us up as a party and try to push us to the corner, looking like radicals and extremists, so they can take the state in 2016, and then they can run again in 2018. And so by allowing her to step up, they've moved up their timetable to take on Texas. Well, they're not going to take Texas. They're not going to do it. And I reject the argument that we as a party are not going to attract Hispanic voters. And they are going to be the majority. And let me tell you why I reject the argument. Number one, Hispanic Catholics are pro-life and pro-marriage. And if the Democrats are sitting around the table, you know what they're talking about tonight? They're saying, so how are we going to keep those Hispanics voting for us, because we don't let anyone who's pro-life even talk in our conventions. And we strongly support gay marriage, and the Hispanic community doesn't. They have a bigger problem with the Hispanic community than we do over the immigration issue. And if we as a party ever turn our back on God, turn our back on Reagan, then we will lose the Hispanic vote. Because we must stand for life and we must stand for family. And there are some in our party who don't want us to do that. But that is such a key issue for us. I believe in my heart of hearts that we as Christian conservatives care more about the poor and people of color in this state and this country than the Democrats do. I believe it with my heart because I know it's right. There's not a person in this room who doesn't want to see people lifted up from poverty, who doesn't want to see students in failing schools in inner cities have choice and a chance to have a quality education. We're fighting for those. Ken and I, we passed 2 school choice bills out of committee. Didn't get off the Senate floor. If I'd been lieutenant governor, they'd have passed out. But those 2 school choice bills were opposed by Democrats. The Democrats want to keep, and this, if this sounds harsh, it's true, and we need to start telling the media so that others hear the truth. They want to keep people down so that people are uneducated. And so people are poor and must depend on government because that elevates them and keeps them in power. And when I'm your lieutenant governor candidate running against Letitia Vanderpute, I'm going to make that case and I'm going to tell that story because someone needs to tell the truth of what the Democrats are all about. Real quick, 3 key things that I'm focused on as a candidate. One is border security. It's not a bumper sticker, it's not a slogan, it's real. From 2006 to 2012, 6 years, we apprehended 1,134,000 people crossing the border into Texas. 1,134,000 people. We think we get one of every 4 or 5. That means 4 million or so got through. From 2008 to 2012, our law enforcement, great folks like the sheriff around the state, in 4 years, apprehended 141,000 criminals that we put in jail, and we identified them as hardened criminals. Gang-related, not someone working, came here illegally, has a job, and got 4 speeding tickets. I'm talking about hardened criminals. We charged them with 447,000 crimes, including 5,000 rapes and 2,000 murders. That's just from 2008 to 2012. And in September of this year, in 1 week, we apprehended 6,000 people crossing into our state. 2,200 of those were OTNs, other than Mexicans, mostly from Central America, but we apprehended someone from Pakistan, from Nepal, from Albania, from Africa, from China. Why are these people crossing the border? I don't think they're coming here for work. We have to understand that there are enemies in the world who want to end our way of life. And if our border is open, they will take advantage of crossing the border. And if you don't think that drug cartels will take $500,000 to smuggle a terrorist across the border, think again. So this is not an immigration issue. Mayor Julian Castro of San Antonio has attacked me as being the toughest guy on immigration in this race, and I am. But it's not against immigrants. It's against illegal immigrants because this is a law and order issue. And we must protect your life, and your family's life, and your property. That's the #1 responsibility anyone in office has, no matter what level they serve in. So I'll get the job done. Highest priority. Ken and I voted against the budget. There were only 4 Republicans who voted against the budget. Brian Birdwell, Ken Paxton, Dan Patrick, Donna Campbell. We're always there. We're the team. And why? We all had different reasons. For me, we cut spending on border security. Cut spending for border security. Cut money to fight criminal gangs in our state. And the only thing I have to say about the Lieutenant Governor's budget that he's proud of, every Democrat voted for it. That tells you it's not a conservative budget. I need to say nothing else. #2, school choice. We have 8,500 campuses in Texas from K to 12. We're a big state. 332,000 teachers, 5.1 million students in regular public schools, 300,000 homeschooled, 250,000 private schools, and 150,000 charter schools. 5.7 million kids, almost 10% of all America goes to school in Texas. But of those 8,500 public schools, we just had our latest report. Our failing schools went from 500 to almost 900. So 10% of our schools are rated as failures. Now, we have school choice. If you're rich enough, send your kids to private school. If you're mobile enough, you move to the suburbs. But if you're in the inner city and you're a poor mom or grandparent raising a child, we have so many broken families in the inner cities, you depend on public transportation for your job, you can't move to the suburbs. And you're clearly not rich enough to send your kids to private school. We have to give school choice to our inner cities to create competition. It is a crime, it is a sin, it is immoral to say to a parent, you must send your child to a failing school that the state of Texas calls a failure. No one in this room would accept that. Another bill we passed, I'm proud of, that we passed in education, Ken, is the A through F bill. Starting next year, we're going to rate our school districts A through F. No more of this acceptable to unacceptable. That's a good bill. You don't solve a problem until people are aware there's a problem. People are going to be aware. My kids are going to a C school district? Really? We want them all to compete to be A's. And the last issue I'm running on is property taxes. I've been in the Senate since 2007. I've cast about 16,000 votes. I've missed 6 or 8. I've missed 1 day out of 650. That was to debate Piers Morgan on CNN about guns. That was the easiest day of my life. I have to tell you a quick story real quick. I don't want to go long. It's been a long evening. Real quick. Piers Morgan calls, his producer calls, says, Dan, you're a strong NRA champion. You're a Second Amendment guy. You passed a lot of gun bills. We want you to come on the show. And we're coming to Texas to do the show live at a gun range. Because Piers Morgan wants to see why Texans love guns. So we go to this gun range in Katy, Texas. That's why I had to leave Austin and go back. We go down there, and they have ladies, I don't know if you'll appreciate this, but men, you'll really love this. They have a 50 caliber machine gun that they rent out for $275 an hour. And you pay $8 a shell. And people do it for bachelor parties, guys' night out, ladies' night, whatever. So Piers, who hates guns, I find out from the guy who owns the shop that Piers wants to shoot the 50 caliber. So Piers goes back in this concrete room about half this size. 50 calibers here, the target's down there. Doesn't let us go, it's just Piers. He doesn't want to, in case he broke down in tears, he didn't want me to see him, I guess. Anyway, he starts firing that 50 caliber and does not stop. I don't know if his hands froze, what happened, but the building is shaking. Dust is coming from the ceiling. Boom, boom, and if any of you ever heard of 50 caliber, I mean, it's loud, especially if you're firing it next door. He came out of there, I know the owner's thinking, he just went through like $800 worth of shells. He comes out smiling, like, I feel like John Wayne. And I said, Piers, now you know why Texans love guns. The third issue is property taxes. You should live in a state where you can pay off your home and not afford to live in it and rent it from the state for the rest of your life. I have introduced bills every session, because it's one of the issues I ran on back in 2006 when I ran for office. Introduced bills to lower your property taxes. There are various ways to do it. Lower the appraisal cap, you can put a cap on spending. But here's what I really want to do, is just make it like a seesaw, because you want your value to go up. As your value goes up, your effective tax rate goes down. So no more than population inflation. And let local government, and sometimes local government will need more than population inflation, come and make the case to you and let you vote on it. And we are in a crisis situation on property taxes, because all of you know the rule of 72. If you don't, whatever you divide into 72 doubles. So if your property taxes go up 8% a year in value, in 9 years your taxes double. So if you live in a $200,000 home when you're 40, and it goes up at 8% a year, and you're paying about $6,000 in taxes on a $200,000 home, when you're 49, you now have a $400,000 home and a $12,000 tax bill. And by the time you're 56, you have an $800,000 home, but you've got a $24,000 tax bill. If your taxes only go up 3 or 4% a year, divide that into 72, and your taxes will only double every 18 to 24 years. That will give you certainty of being able to afford your home. So that's the big 3 issues. Look, there are three good guys in the race, and when it's over 2 weeks from tomorrow, forget which night it is, I'm sure we'll all be friends again. But the silly season is here. Personal attacks have started. I will talk about people's record. I will talk about their votes. I will not personally attack. I will not go back 15 to 20 years into someone's life. I'm not going to do it. They're doing it on me. They're doing it on me. As I said at a debate one night, Dewhurst is 68 or 9, Patterson 67, 66. I'll be 64 in April. Todd's in his 50s. I said, look, we've all lived a long time. If someone wants to look into our life, they can find something to run a campaign at. I'm not interested in that. I'm a no-nonsense, serious conservative who will lead the Senate, and there'll be 2 different ways I will lead, and I'll wrap up. One is, I'm not going to appoint half of the Democrats as chairman of committees, as has been appointed. There are laws against us saying certain things. So I can't say who I would appoint to certain committees. But let's just say this. There are really, really great conservative senators that deserve to be chairman of committees, not liberal Democrats. And that's going to end. Number two, we have this 21 vote rule. How many of you know what the 21 vote rule is? Real quick, give you a quick primer on it. It's really the most, along with the chairmanship, the most important issue. We're going to win the Wendy Davis seat, so we'll have 20 Republicans out of 31 senators.
Ooh, Connie Burton.
Okay? 20 out of 31. You only need 16 to pass the bill, right, Ken? Sounds simple. Got 20 Republicans. You need 16 to pass the bill. Why can't we pass Campus Carry? Why can't we pass all these bills? Yeah. Because it takes 21 votes to bring a bill to the floor, so 16 members can vote for it. So the 21 vote bill, since there are only 20 Republicans, and then we've only had 19 in the last 2 sessions, guess who the most powerful people in the Texas Senate are? The 2 Democrats, who are the 20th and 21st, or in this case, the 21st vote. And it will be even harder to get next session because no one Democrat's going to be the only Democrat. Right, Ken? So Brian Birdwell can have the best legislation, most conservative legislation. I was a co-author with him on Campus Carry. Brian couldn't get that bill passed. We had the votes. Every Republican was going to vote for it, but we couldn't get it off the floor. Now, the lieutenant governor can't unilaterally change that rule. It's a Senate rule, the senators vote. Well, it takes a simple majority, 16 of 31 senators to vote to change the rules. So when my first day on the floor, this was a big issue when I ran, back in 2007, he must already know the story. We have a back room where all the senators meet, Ken, right? First day we vote on the rules. And no matter what the vote is in the back, it could be 25-6, 27-4. When we go out on the floor, it's unanimous. We don't debate the rules. It's unanimous. Well, my first day back in 2007, I stood up, made my case. I lost 28-3 to change it from 21 to 19. Why 19? Not because we had 19 senators, but because at 60%, the cloture rule of the U.S. Senate made sense with our founding fathers. 60%. So I go out on the floor and I said, well, we're going to have to vote out on the floor. I mean, that's my first day, you know. I ran on this. My people are expecting a vote. They say, Senator, no. You won't pass a bill this session if you go out there. It's like Ken when he ran for speaker. You know, if you ever stand up for what you believe in, you pay a price. So I walked out to my desk and a senator came over and said, Senator, if you make us vote on this, you will definitely not pass any legislation this session. You won't have any friends. And you're a rookie, and rookies don't talk on the first day. And I said, Senator, I may be a rookie, but my constituents are veterans just like your voters. And they have a right to be heard. So I made my case. I told my story. And I called for a vote. And I lost 30-1. Even the 2 guys in the back who were with me, they were sticking to tradition. But today, we're up to probably 10 votes. So we need 16 to change it. We have a lot of new people coming, don't we, Meg?
Yes.
A lot of conservatives. So I'm going to do everything I can to change that rule. We change that rule, get the Democrats out of chairs, the world will change. So I need your vote. I know some of you maybe know some of the other members in the race. I will tell you tonight, with 2 weeks to go, it's a 2-person race. David Dewhurst is in the 30s. I'm in the mid-20s. Jerry and Todd are in the single digits. And it's become a 2-man race. We've been endorsed by basically every conservative group, leader, Tea Party in the state, as Ken said, because of the same reason he has these endorsements, because they've looked at his record, they've looked at my record. It's not that the other people aren't good folks, but we have some different views on different bills and different voting records, and voting records matter. So I would love to have your vote. This is a key county. 25% of the statewide vote is in my area, Houston, Greater Houston. 28 to 30% of the vote is in the greater DFW area, including your county. So about 55% of the vote is in DFW and Houston. San Antonio, Hill Country is about 10. You all can make a big difference. And as Ken said in closing, be sure to understand your power that you have. Think of all the people you know. Maybe they used to be neighbors and moved away. You went to college with them. I mean, look, you just ran back into, an old friend. You probably, each one of you in this room, outside of this county, I bet you know 100, 200 people. And if you will email them, now if you're voting for someone else, don't tell a soul. But if you're with me, if you're with the Paxton and me, then send a note out and say, I've heard, and this is who I'm voting for. And I'd be honored to have your vote. At my age, my wife insists on term limits, 2 terms, that'll be it. 71 will be time to go home. And last thing, please take a copy of this movie when you go. We have them outside. They're free. Take one per couple. It's not about me. It's called The Heart of Texas. It's a great Christian story that I made in 2009. It became an award-winning movie, a documentary, true story, and it has led to something I'm very proud of. We opened the first ever seminary in a Texas prison because of this movie, because of this little seed that was planted that you'll see at the end of the movie. And the seminary is important because we have 158,000 people in our prisons. We parole 70,000 a year where they get out because their term's up. The sheriff has to keep an eye on them, right, Sheriff? A lot of people coming back. We need to change the character of those men. The only way you need to change the culture of the prison by changing the character of the men, by changing their heart. And the only way you can change a person's heart is through the word of Jesus Christ. So we started the seminary, and it's already creating miracles. Fort Worth Star-Telegram said it's a miracle what's going on. We're going to graduate our first class. We have 43 classes of 40. All prisoners with long sentences to become ministers within the prison to try to turn that prison around. The model for it is Angola Prison in Louisiana, where they had 5,000 prisoners, 70% served life. They were the most violent prison in America. They started a seminary 16 years ago. It's now the least violent prison in America. If you can believe the sheriff, no cursing allowed in the prison. And they graduated 440 pastors. There's nothing more powerful than the Word of God. Nothing more powerful. So you've allowed me to talk longer than I should. Thank you. danpatrick.org. Ignore all the attacks. It's political season. Just move forward, and would be honored to have your vote, as would Ken Paxton. Thank you all very much.